This is Kim Meyer, host of Choose to Rise. Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media.
Strike three, you're out.
Welcome back to a brand new episode of Caught Listening, the baseball podcast that goes beyond the white lines. Christian Heimall here with you, broadcasting every week as part of the Public House Media Network. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, review, share us with your friends and family and fellow baseball lovers. You can find us on social media as well and be part of the show by submitting your listener questions every week. Search for us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter by going to Caught Listening by Public House Media, or you can email the show, caughtlisteningphm@gmail.com. It's very weird. Every single week we talk to you guys, and there's still no baseball to really talk about. Eventually, in a couple of weeks, opening day for Major League Baseball. Next week, actually. But like I've said before on this show, I don't know how optimistic you can be about a full 60-game season being played, but who knows? But there's more about baseball not existing in 2020 than just Major League Baseball. And today we're going to talk a lot about that. It's kind of a fun show, different show, first one we've ever really done with live guests. Usually it's on a phone or via Zoom, but a lot of fun here. We've got two baseball lifers, I think I can call them, Jamie Keefe as well as Billy Horn, manager and bench coach for the High Point Rockers. And yes, that is the team that I'm the GM for, so no, they didn't have to do this as part of their contract, but it is always nice to talk with them, and they were in town for a showcase that we did this week, and it's one of the things we're going to talk about. But guys, I mean, can we just agree right off the bat, this year sucks?
Well said.
I mean, this would have been, and it was weird, I was thinking about this yesterday, Jamie, and yesterday, Tuesday would have been opening day for a shortened season, a half season for us in the Atlantic League. But more importantly, Tuesday in a full season would have been the Atlantic League All-Star game.
It sure would have.
Which would have been, this would have been All-Star Week in Major League Baseball, which would, the midway point, and where you celebrate a lot of things, and the casual baseball fan becomes a huge fan for one night to watch the Home Run Derby. To get to this point in a year where there's no baseball, I mean, it's weird to think of. It's strange.
It is. And, Sunday we would have probably clinched our first half playoff.
Yeah.
And we would have sprayed champagne, and, it's just different times. Let's be honest. I know we sit here. I mean, have you ever seen Billy and I so happy to be on a 110-degree field yesterday?
Yeah.
With a bunch of guys. I mean, it's just, usually it's your job and you have something to complain about. We don't. Right now we're just lucky to be here and be out there on the field and working with some kids. It was nice.
And Billy, for you, I mean, again, both you guys are baseball lifers, different paths to get to where you currently are, obviously. I mean, Jamie being drafted out of high school, playing in the affiliated ranks, and then going to coaching and managing. You played a little bit internationally, professionally as well, before coming back to the States and then coaching there. But, I mean, one of the things that I think is a lot of fun and that I'm happy to see hasn't been fully taken away is what we were doing over the last couple of days. And that is giving back to the future of the game, whether it be, you can argue about metrics and all this other stuff, which is what we were really kind of focusing on. But to have 13, 14, 15, 16, 17-year-old kids out on the field getting professional instruction, still in this situation, in this where nobody's allowed to really do anything, is still great for the future of baseball in that sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we had so much fun the last couple of days, between Jamie, myself, and Frank Viola. And, we had a couple of guys from the Texas Rangers come out. And it was great for us not only to be out there and with the players and to teach and hang out and have fun, but we also got to learn, and you never stop learning in this game. And, I think, Jamie, myself, and Frank, we've done a pretty good job of, understanding the metrics and the data and how important it is for these players and also learning from the kids, just being out there and seeing the smiles on their faces. And it was a blast, and we did it all with social distancing and the guidelines.
Exactly.
But it was real fun to get out there and throw BP. And, Jamie's over there hitting ground balls, working with some middle infielders, and Frank's working with some pitchers. And it was a blast. It really was.
And for that part, because, minor league baseball getting canceled, independent baseball minus what they're doing in the American Association, which we'll touch on in a little bit, because for those who don't know indie ball, we'll really get into it. But that's a year of development that's been lost. Jamie and I have talked about it offline a couple of times in the fact that you got high school seniors, you got high school freshmen, sophomores, whatever it is, 12-year-olds who have lost a year of development. I mean, can you even think of a time like in your career at any point where if you were forced to not be able to do anything for an entire year of baseball, what it could have done for your trajectory?
Well, for me, I really didn't have much of a trajectory. I mean, I played in Italy, and I played independent ball and everything. I never played in the big leagues or in an organization, but I have played the game and for a lot of years. But, yeah, I couldn't imagine just taking a full year off and not pitching, and then all of a sudden come out and expect to throw 100 innings or 150 or 200 innings like some of these guys are. Well, organizational guys, they don't throw 200 innings anymore. Maybe 4 innings a week, but – no, the point being is I couldn't imagine. It's just like anything with any job, with any profession. It's it is like riding a bike, but it does take a toll on your body. And then taking the year off, there's a time clock in baseball, and everybody knows how important that is. So for these guys, it's to keep getting out there and throwing and running and hitting and trying to get some work in. It's anything that they can do is going to be for the benefit of their career in the long run.
And Jamie, kind of on the same thing there. I mean, Billy can touch to it from a pitcher standpoint. I mean, it's there. Yes, there are injuries that take you away from the game for a year. I mean, we see all the guys with Tommy John surgery, but they're able to keep their legs fresh. They're able to find some way to do it. I mean, injuries are really kind of the only other way where you don't have baseball for a full year. You can't get into that game shape. How difficult could you see it being?
Oh, for sure. I mean, your game legs are, go a full year and a half without having your game legs and show up to spring training. Good luck. I mean, I don't care what you do.
Yeah.
Those first 4 or 5 days back on the field, it's different. 100% it's different. Advantage older guys, to be honest with you, I think right now. I think, the guys that are at that 32, 33, 34-year-old age, maybe they get that quote unquote extra year that they weren't thinking about. I mean, there are a few guys out there that you look at Ryan Braun for example. A guy that's always battled foot injury and your hand injury or whatnot. I mean, to take the last 4 months and not have to play. I'm sure you're going to see. I think you're going to see some offensive numbers right now. Those guys are behind the 8 ball because they've missed their at bats and their pitchers have been able to keep their innings up, even though they haven't been facing live hitters.
Right.
They've so right now I was reading a few stories today. Guys are kind of getting the bat knocked out of their hands a little bit for those first few days of going back to live. But I really do. I think it is definitely going to hurt the younger player all the way from the 7th, 8th grade level, certainly through high school and those kids that are juniors. I really feel for those kids that were juniors last year going into their senior year that were unsigned. The kid that was waiting to see, what school's really going to come calling. This is my breakout year because I grew 2 more inches, or I put on 10 or 15 pounds this winter, and my velo jumped up 4 or 5 miles an hour. You go from that kid that throws 86 to 88, and all of a sudden he's throwing 92 to 94. You get a few more looks, and they're going to get hurt by that. And we were able to be out there yesterday, and we do know that there is tournament baseball going on for the younger players, as it hurt us a little bit here. We saw that. But those kids that are playing that club baseball and tournament baseball, it's amazing what data is going to do for them right now because the D1 coaches can't be out there, and the D2 and D3 coaches and NAIA and junior college coaches just got the okay to start being out there. So, the game has, I don't know if it's catching up with itself or what it's doing, but, I think that Billy and I probably looked more into the data these last couple of days than we probably ever have, just for the sake of those college coaches that can't do what they do, and that's recruit, and they can't be there to see them.
And you guys doing it at the professional level, I mean, in the independent ranks, obviously there's no draft. We're not looking for 18-year-old kids who are, obviously if there's a kid who doesn't get drafted, doesn't decide he's not going to go to college or whatever it is, then maybe if he's good enough, there are leagues for him, obviously. But I mean, it's interesting to me because, like you said, for those kids, it's the worst because they're in limbo more than anybody's ever been right now. Take me through not only, and we talked about this in a game situation. You get a guy loose in the bullpen, and then you sit him down for an inning, and then you bring him back up and you get him hot again. obviously, as soon as you get a guy up a second time, generally speaking, if he's not coming in the game, he's done. If you get a guy hot and again in the bullpen. But take me through what it would be like, and I don't know if you went through this in '94 when you were in the minors or not, but going through a spring training.
It was a long time ago.
Going through a spring training, and then having something like this happen where you get completely shut down. And now, like we have the guys in the majors right now, they got to get ramped back up again in 2.5, 3 weeks to get going again. I mean, how difficult is it when you can do certain things, yes, but when you're not allowed to go to the ballpark, you're not allowed to go to your facility and get your work in, work with your coach, work with your swing guy, whatever it is, to do that, to get hot for 2-3 weeks like you were in February and March, shut down for 3.5, 4 months, and then...
Well, and never mind the pandemic hits and everything's closed, even cages. You where your facility that you work out at is closed,
right?
And it's not closed for a week, and you're missing a week or two of swings. We're talking about 6 to 8 weeks that we went. 9 weeks we went through this in some states.
Yeah,
yes, things opened back up, and they did have a chance to get back in there and get swings. But again, I think these guys kind of got dry humped a little bit by going to spring training and doing their thing, and then got shut down, and now they got to bring it back, as quick as possible for themselves. I think that the pitchers are, advantage the pitchers, especially the first week of spring training or first week of the season. There's no doubt. I mean, those we've had that talk, that 2.5. We've had that talk of the 2.5 weeks, 2 to 2.5 weeks. The guys. I mean, a lot of guys, even during the first few spring training games at the big league level, they've seen live pitching at that point for 9 or 10 days.
Yeah.
They may not pull the trigger their first couple at bats.
Right.
A, because there's finally fans in the stands, so things are different already, and B, because they're just trying to get their eyes to be with them, and they're really trying to get their timing down. I mean, it's going to be really interesting to see what the bodies do as well. Now you're going to go from not playing for how long? I mean, we're 11 or 12 weeks out from when they left spring, or 11 weeks out from when they left spring training. They just started to ramp it back up, and the everyday guys aren't out there every single day. They're playing today and relaxing a little bit tomorrow and getting a few things done. And they probably, if you're following what the major league teams are doing now, they're inter-squadding, obviously, and there's talk of them possibly playing another team. But even with the inter-squads, the first few times that you go through, you play today, you're off tomorrow,
right.
You play the next day. Maybe that third time around, they might throw a back-to-back day in there, and then you're off for another. Now you're talking about you're going to play 60 games in, 71 days?
66 days, something like that. Yeah.
So it's be ready. It's going to have to. But the nice part is that they are. I feel like the major league clubs are doing the right thing with the rosters and extending it. They're not going to. You got to protect those arms and you got to protect those bodies because you're going to need to give your guys times off. I don't see too many people that are going to go out and play all 60 games. I just don't see it. I think that's stupid at this point. I think you're looking at asking for an injury at this point.
Yeah. Talking with Jamie Keefe and Billy Horn, professional coaches, manager with the High Point Rockets in the Atlantic League Independent Baseball. We talked about, Jamie talked about older guys maybe getting an extra year potentially because of this. Maybe they're not banging up their body as much as possible. You might even have some older guys who decide they don't want to play this year just because, and they, whatever it may be. They could see that as a reason. You could see this as an opportunity to take a year off, get healthy, and get right back at it. But then there are some guys who, it's kind of interesting. This is weird for all of us, and all three of us are engaged or married, whatever it is, and we're home more than we've ever been during a summer, ever in our lives. And it's not just us, but it's everybody in Major League Baseball. And you've got some players who may have been unsure or weren't even really thinking about the R word, retirement, and now they're home with their kids for 5 months. They've gotten a chance to really be with them, their families, and all that stuff, and they see it as a blessing. And now they're starting to think, wow, this is what everyday life could be like. And they change to that. I mean, there's got to be that weird balance of where you obviously want to keep playing, but then you're seeing the benefits of your personal life really start to grow a little bit.
Yeah, it's different for everybody, but I think these guys are crazy. Listen, I love my wife to death, as you guys know, but I don't want to be home and for 12 months a year
right.
and around. That's just how we are. That's how we are as baseball people. That's how we're wired. And listen, if you're telling me that I have a chance to stay home with my wife all summer, or I can go away and make $7 million, I'll do it for $7,000. I mean, No, but on a serious note, I mean, you, like I said, you deal with a different breed of people, and you see guys like Frank and a lot of guys that we know that are married for 30, 40 years because they're always on the road, and it's so crazy. Like I think it's like 52% of all marriages end in divorce, but. With baseball guys, for the most part, they really don't for two reasons. One, they're on the road all the time, but two, they're smart because they don't have to give up that pension. So, I mean, but it's been fun. It's been crazy. It's been such a different year.
Yeah.
I mean, this is my first year home in like 8 years, and for Jamie, it's like his first year home in like 62 years. But I'll tell you, I've gotten, I know you wanted to talk about this, but we're talking now landscaping and cooking and cleaning and line. My wife, God bless her, she works 60, 70 hours a week. So I'm doing all this stuff that I watched my mom do when I was growing up, and I really hate it. Like, I really hate laundry. That's like my biggest pet peeve. But it's been different, like Jamie, I mean, you tell me. I mean, he gets to travel.
Well, yeah. I mean, and I want to ask him that too, because it's going to be like, this is a weird situation, and I don't want this to happen again, obviously, in a couple of years. But you got your youngest son sitting right behind you right now.
Yep.
And if, let's say this was, let's say he was graduating high school this year.
Right.
And you would have actually had a chance, like, I mean, I don't want to say had a chance to be there because you were at your oldest son's high school graduation. You missed a game or two for that, if I remember correctly, a couple of years ago. But, like, the opportunity to be there with your kids as they're going through some pivotal points in their life and actually have that connection when you haven't. And yes, your sons have always been at the ballpark with you, but I mean, to put yourself in that scenario where, if let's say Brooks and Brigham were, 6 and 10 instead of 14 and 18 at this point. I mean, how difficult would it be, or how much would you be? I don't want to say difficult, but how much more do you think you'd be enjoying that personal time?
Oh, for sure, yeah, for sure. I mean, I am right now. I mean, this has been great for him to be able to be with me for the last 3 weeks and us just going to the cage every day, and I don't have to go somewhere to be on a field. I mean, it was going to the cage before, but then okay, the guys are going to be here at 2:30, and they got the cage. You know, and it's different now. I mean, everything in my life, everybody's life is different now. It has been a blessing here for sure. To get more family time, it's been wonderful. Outside of the family, it sucks.
Going crazy.
That's it. I mean, because I am used to having 25 other kids that I'm taking care of. Let's be honest. It doesn't matter what their age is. I have 25 other kids for the summer. And, that stinks. It's a hard, it's a hard, something hard to grasp onto. I know. And I think that's what it is, Billy. It's the relationships that we're used to having. And there's something, it's very addictive. It's very, yeah. I mean, to talk to the couple of the Rangers guys yesterday, and them look at me and like, you have to listen to this every day. I said every day, all summer. I mean, and we live 20 miles away from each other. We don't see each other during the off season. Why don't we? Because of that right there. I mean, that's just it. Once we hit the field, things change. And life's just it's all different right now. And I feel for the guys that are that were on the borderline of getting that big league shot this year that might not now, and those kids that man, they had a really good year last year in their third or fourth year in the organization, but a good year on their terms, but it just wasn't enough to maybe think that they are going to get to AA or AAA this year, and they don't have a job, and because they don't have that AA or AAA experience, maybe they're not going to find an independent job next year, and that's really tough because there's some of those guys. There's more than a handful out there that maybe done baseball and could have got some big league time.
Well, Billy, I mean, let me ask you this then, because I think it's interesting. I think you and I are kind of in a similar situation in terms of where our minds have been over the last couple of months. Like, yes, we want baseball, but we've also been kind of now, because of this, forcing our minds to think about other avenues to progress our careers, whatever that might be in baseball. I mean, you've been running Meet a Prospect for a few years now, but the conversations that we've had over the last day and a half about going full bore at it, or changing things up to make it a little bit more of a lucrative opportunity, are conversations that maybe you don't have in the middle of a season because you're so focused on that night's game, and then once the off season hits, you need a mental break. So in that sense, this has been kind of a little bit of a good thing because it does force your mind into those kind of conversations.
Absolutely. I mean, just like Jamie said, we have 25 kids, that we look out and we're laser focused, and our main goal is obviously to, help these kids and promote them back to major league organizations, and bring in more quality guys and help them out. But right now, I mean, we put together a team, and a great team at that, and I'm sure we'll get into that in a little bit. But yeah, it's time to, all right, let's focus and channel our energies, elsewhere. And we've been doing the Meet a Prospect for the last 5-6 years, and helping pro guys, and now we've partnered up, and we're going to start doing some things with the lower levels, helping these kids out with tournaments all throughout the country, and including the data, with the baseball cloud and prospect wire guys that we've known for years. And it's pretty cool. It's a shame that it's coming at this time due to this expense,
right?
And but anything we can do to keep helping the kids and just keep the game of baseball going, and it's been great for us because we kind of get to adapt,
Yeah.
You get to learn, and it's so funny in independent baseball. We get calls from agents, and he played in the big leagues 2 years ago, and his spin rate is this, and
right.
As it doesn't matter for us.
Right.
It's about their numbers and production,
right?
But it's great to learn that side and see, okay, this is what I see, but then this is what the number. It validates what you see,
right?
In my opinion, and to be able to start incorporating that now with Meet a Prospect and just doing all kinds of different things, it's been awesome, but at an unfortunate expense. I'd much rather be, popping champagne last week and maybe going to the All-Star game. Maybe we'd have another 6 or 7. What do we have? 7 All-Stars last year?
7.
Yeah. Maybe we would have had more All-Stars this year, but when you talk to these kids, it's just keep grinding. Be a good teammate, keep grinding.
Yeah.
You got to do well in school. You don't have the grades, you're not going to play, and it was fun again to be around those kids today. But the best part was definitely, busting on Frank on Viola. I mean, just giving him stuff and wearing him out and being in that setting again. It was great.
Well, let's transition a little bit, because I mean, again, baseball without baseball, it's weird, and it's not a lot of fun. But what I think is really kind of neat too, and again, I hate this, and I know I hate it for people, because people are going to lose jobs over this stuff. But there's the conversation about minor league baseball contracting and what that might look in 42, 60, however many teams it is. There's talks of entire leagues being disbanded, whatever that might look like. And it sucks, obviously, for people losing their jobs. But there's a reason the three of us are in independent baseball. And me, number one, it's, the freedom of it is kind of the biggest part, because you mentioned it. I mean, ripping on Frank Viola, I mean, we would not have been able to put this coaching staff together in an organization. It's very unlikely that would have happened at a minor league level. Yes, at the major league level, but let's just take the Detroit Tigers, for example. They're going to dictate every one of their rosters and coaching staffs all the way down their organization. We, as an independent organization, have the opportunity to pair you and Jamie with Frank Viola, with Albert Gonzalez, with Bubba Birdsong, with all these people who basically you like being around, but you think alike too, more than anything else.
Yeah, you're 100% right on that. And that's one thing that I've learned in independent baseball a long time ago is, before you hire somebody, a coach, you need to do 3 things. One, you got to throw BP. You got to have an ability to attract players. Mm-hmm. And me, as whether I'm a manager, pitching coach, whatever, I got to live with you for 8 months.
Yeah.
So what kind of guy am I getting? Mm-hmm. And it's so funny, over the years you see, it really clicked with me a couple of years ago. I forgot. Isaiah Thomas was beaten out of a coaching job in the NBA.
Yeah.
I don't know who it was, and it was a no-name, somebody you've never heard of.
Yeah.
And then you find out, you hear, well, this and that, and maybe he wasn't great with the players or his attitude. So it just goes to show you, especially like these kids that are playing now that have these aspirations of making it to the big leagues, and less than 0.5% is going to make it.
Yeah.
There's so many other avenues in baseball you can go. So it doesn't matter if you played in the big leagues, that's great. But if you can't relate to kids and you're not a good person and you can't help build the ball club, it's going to be real tough for you to find a job.
And that's kind of the fun part too, because again, we talk about putting a coaching staff together, and for those who don't know listening, who don't know the difference between independent baseball and affiliated minor league baseball, it's still professional baseball. That make no mistake about it. These aren't, it's not beer league softball. It's not semi-pro stuff.
We got uniforms and everything.
We got uniforms. Yes, as Jake Taylor once said, we got uniforms and everything. But at the independent level, all it means is that there's no one major league organization that's attached to that franchise. And perfect example for the High Point Rockers last year, we had 7.
That may change.
Well, yeah, there's a potential for that. Yes, as this goes through. for us in the independent league last year in the Atlantic League, we had 7 guys get signed by 7 different organizations. Yes, 2 of them were in Mexico, but still, that goes to show you that our players could end up a major leaguer in any of those organizations that are out there, which is a great thing to do. So not only do we get to put a coaching staff together, but Billy, I mean, you've been a part of this in the Frontier League as a manager, in the Atlantic League as a pitching coach and a bench coach here in High Point and player development guy. You can put your team together however you want. And it's not, us here, and we'll just use our region here, but, the Greensboro Grasshoppers, they put their team together based on who the Pittsburgh Pirates send them. They don't put their team together based on who they want to win a championship, and that's that to me is the really fun part of independent ball.
Yeah, and I'll say something that I've heard many times, and it's so true. It's harder to stick around in independent baseball than it is in a major league organization. There's no doubt about it, because let's say you're in AA or AAA and you're struggling, and the organization likes you. Well, we'll send you to A-ball, or we'll send you to extended, to work on whatever your craft is, whatever you need help with. But with us, with independent ball. And depending on teams and managers and however the manager feels about a guy, sometimes you get a week, sometimes you get a month. But if you don't figure it out at some point or another, you're gone. And again, with independent baseball, it doesn't matter about your metrics and your data. Nobody cares. Because if you're a career 210 hitter, it's going to be very, very difficult for you to find a job somewhere.
And Jamie, I mean, you can kind of touch on that too, because
because he was a career 210.
I wouldn't know it. I honestly actually don't know what your career batting average was. I really don't know, but
I couldn't.
I think it was above 210. So
yeah, it was above that.
But drafted
way above that, really, like maybe a couple points.
But drafted out of high school in the Pirates organization, you made it up to AAA in the minors, and then ended up, transitioning over into the independent leagues. And now, and Billy's seen it too, obviously, in independent baseball, but you've got guys who can stick around in independent baseball, but then you've got guys who that, like, listen, if you don't figure it out here, there is nowhere else for you to go. And it's not like, for example, the example I always use for people is, Yoan Moncada. Yoan Moncada is going to stick around because of how much money the White Sox have invested in him, whether he's a 210 hitter or a 310 hitter, because of the money they've got invested in him. At the independent level, you're a 210 hitter, gone. Right,
and you might be a 210 hitter, and you might have had 31 home runs last year or the year before, and you're playing in the same spot, and and that player is comfortable now, and he knows they love, the fans love him. And one of the worst things you can do is the fans love him, and you fall in love with him because he hit 31 for you last year, but all of a sudden we're July 15th, and we just played the first half, and which we are today. We are July 15th, and he's hitting 210.
Yeah,
he's probably going to be hitting 220 if he has a great second half. You got to let those guys go, and that's where you get caught. That's the difference. Is and he's probably not going to find a job. I might be able to send him to a different independent. We might be able to send him to a different independent league, but that's again, those guys don't stick around. And Billy said it earlier. We talk about data and what we think of data. I mean, it was awesome the last 2 days of learning what we learned. But, a guy throwing 102 with an incredible spin rate, I could care less. If he's throwing 102 and he's not in an organization, there's a reason. And it's probably because nobody can stand within the same zip code as home plate because he doesn't know where it's going. But, all honesty, there might be an organization that gives him a shot. This organization's not going to, and probably nobody else in independent ball. That's the difference.
It's like the movie. It's like the movie Draft Day. And I don't like referencing that movie because from a cinematic standpoint, it's not great. But Kevin Costner is 100% right. He doesn't draft the top prospect quarterback because none of his teammates went to his birthday party. He was a bad teammate. Yeah. So you look at that stuff more when you're putting together indie ball, from a front office standpoint, what's kind of fun too is. We've all been together. We've known each other for a few years. Yes, in the affiliated ranks, you can start selling the jersey of a guy who came through your organization. Let's take Greensboro Grasshoppers, for example. They were a Miami Marlins affiliate. They had Yelich. They had Stanton. They had Fernandez. They had all these guys. And, yes, they can sell those jerseys. But as soon as those guys get to the big leagues, they're in Miami. And here in North Carolina, you're a Braves fan. Or they get shipped to Milwaukee. Or they get shipped to, New York, whatever it is. But in the independent ranks, if we've got a guy we like for example, a guy we all love in Steven Cardullo, if he's around for a few years, we can sell that jersey. Right. We can, and he's going to stay here and stuff like that. So from a front office standpoint, it's definitely fun in that standpoint. All right, I want to get into this because there is still baseball. There has been professional baseball played already this year.
Correct.
In the American Association. It's a very strange, very weird way that they're doing it. And I know we all know players and coaches, and we know people in that league, and it's great to see them doing it, and they're able to do it because of where their states are and where their counties are in regards to the COVID-19 response. But trying to put that together, and Jamie, you and I have talked about this because we were trying to do it here in High Point. But all these things, all these rules, regulations, guidelines that would have to be put in place, adding that onto your role, or Billy, even your role as a coach, along with putting together the best lineup. I mean,
you can't argue a call, Christian.
I know.
You can't say a word.
Milwaukee's manager got tossed for stepping out of the dugout because he's not allowed.
Right. And there's only so many times I can tell Frank to shut up. I mean, you can't say a word, really. You know. I mean, it's just. Hats off to Butch and some of our boys over there. We wish everybody luck, and George and St. Paul and Chicago, all these guys. We love them, and they've been good to us, and we've been good to them, and they're friends of ours. And I just don't know. I don't know how it's going. I hope for the best, and of course we've got a few players over there that we have interest in too. I think that we're just at this point, man. It's scary, after seeing what they went through that first weekend, and it is. I mean, the restrictions, and I don't know what it's going to look like on a major league field. When I don't know, are the umpires wearing masks? I don't know, are the first base coaches we don't know. We don't. I know that there's 111 pages, I think, of rules that they had to learn before they showed up to spring training. So, we're going to learn all this, but there's guys that are playing because they want to get winter ball jobs because they're trying to get back to an organization, and B, some of these guys, this is their job. This is where their main income comes from. So they're trying to do what they can to play right now and stay in the game. And it's definitely different. I know that it's no fun for sure for us.
I mean, Billy, you're the main guy. I mean, when the Rockers lose a player, whether it be to injury or whether he gets signed or whatever it is, or he decides he wants to hang him up mid-season, whatever it is, you've got a list of guys that you can plug in. But trying to convince someone in this scenario to leave their home, leave their family for, we joke 18 and a host, but to go and play baseball in an uncertain climate from a health standpoint.
Yeah, to be honest with you, as much as I want to be out there, as much as we want to for the fans and the city and the players, I'm glad we're not playing because we don't know what's going to happen. I mean, the American Association can fold tomorrow.
Right.
We have no idea. And, people can be failing tests, people can be getting sick, and you got to be very careful because for us, our main job is if a guy's not performing or if we don't have room for him, we're going to try and get somebody a job somewhere. But right now, you have to be very cautious and say, hey, listen, put on the news, look what's going on. Be very careful. You got to protect yourself, your family. So, again, I'm glad we're not playing. I really wish we were, and it really stinks. But for the players' safety, the safety of their families. I mean, I know the league did the right thing, in not playing, because once you start, who knows? Even with Major League Baseball, they can be 7 days in, and all of a sudden, 10 guys, 20 guys, 100 guys, and same thing with the NBA and the NHL.
All of it, yeah.
I mean, not to say bring out a personal opinion, but I wish they'd all just shut it down. Let's get healthy and get past this, and then start playing when it's the right time. But yeah, it's tough. Tough call.
So we've come to the point in the show where we like to have a little bit of fun here. End of the show, last couple of minutes, we play Pepper. And for us, it's quick hitting questions. First response comes to your mind. It's usually something random, something weird. But Billy, I'll start with you here. First one is
Stallone.
No, I'm not asking your favorite actor, your favorite human. I'm not asking any of that stuff. Well, some of it, but you pitched obviously professionally. Pitcher you modeled your game after?
I didn't throw as hard as him, but was Roger Clemens.
Okay. Clemens. Jamie, player you modeled your game after?
Cal Ripken.
Okay. All right. Let's see here. Best moment of your professional playing career?
Well, I didn't play very much. I kind of answered this yesterday on another show. I would say my best moment was the day I got drafted. I'll stick with that. I mean, there were a lot of games. There were playoff games, and there were some fun times. Obviously, going through and getting called. You get called up to AA, you get called up to AAA. I mean, if you don't get called up to the big leagues, what is your best moment? I don't see it.
Right.
I think that just knowing that I had that opportunity at that level was great.
Billy?
The day I retired. No, I had a stretch. One of my years out in Italy, I think I went like 4 or 5 starts in a row, 8 innings or more.
Okay.
It was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Best, whether it be teammate or player that you've coached, but like the one guy that you wish you could have every single year in that clubhouse.
Wow, there's been a couple. One guy. I got 2 guys. One of them's Jared Mitchell.
Okay.
Even though I had him a short time, and Tyler Wilson.
Okay.
He's the other one. He's like a son to me. I love him.
Mine. There's 2 of them.
Yeah, big line. Marcus Knight
Big
first one
line.
of them, 100%. Yep. And then I would venture Doc Edmondson. Jared Edmondson. Yeah, figured as much on that. All right, last one. If you were not involved in baseball, what would you be doing professionally?
I probably would have gone to nursing school.
I've known you 10 years, and I don't think I've ever heard you say that. Okay. All right. Billy?
Probably medical sales.
Okay. All right. Both of you, I don't know how you could have. You probably would have paired up in some way, shape, or form there too. One way or the other. Guys, appreciate it. It's always fun talking baseball. It's always actually nice to see you guys. Billy, it's the first time I've seen you since September, and obviously I've seen Jamie a couple times. But always a lot of fun.
I know this is your podcast, but
yeah.
I just want everybody out there to know that not only is he the general manager of our Hard Point Rockers, and do we work with him on a daily basis, but we have to put out a special thanks to him and to Steph for being our host family for the summer. Mango and Dixie, being our host kids whenever we come here. We usually spend every Sunday here during the summer. After a home game, we come over for a nice barbecue, and I've obviously been through here now, I think, 5 times during this pandemic to go back and forth to see the family. And a big shout out to Steph and you for thank you.
Well, let me touch on that for a second, because even though I didn't play professionally, I didn't play past freshman year of college, my career in baseball started with a host family. And you guys have been involved in that sense. I mean, I can say it as much as possible, but I mean, we've had conversations with host families, but how important are host families to minor league sports?
They're people that you keep in touch with for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
There's 5 or 6 of them that I still might be once a year,
right.
But I get a shout out. I mean, they're always there. When you travel, and especially as much as I do, I just don't play. I just don't play now in the cities that I or near the cities that I played in 200 years ago when I was in the minor leagues, as Billy would say. But they are the backbone of minor league baseball, plain and simple. I mean, you watch, you watch anything on TV, anything that's filmed on, Cape Cod baseball, Cape Cod baseball, or anything that's filmed on minor league baseball. I mean, even Bull Durham. You look at, the host families are what makes this thing work, and hats off to them. And I know it is a big part of their lives. They live for it.
Yeah.
I mean, you and I and Steph saw it all together in New York. I mean, those meetings that we have in February where it's when they have an ice rink on our baseball field, that these host families show up just to have that pizza party, just to talk baseball and where we're headed for next year. Right. So, good shout out to the host families for sure.
100%. So, if you wanted to add anything on that, Billy. And well, I mean, like it's a lot of fun. I mean, basically, what we wanted to get out of that is if you have a spare room, be a host family for somebody, please. Whatever it might be. Just and because again, it's a great thing. So before we get out of here, guys, I mean, the hope, Billy, you kind of touched. I mean, it sucks we're not playing. Probably the best move for us to not play, but. How does the process look now for you guys? Because I look at it from a front office standpoint of I've got 10 months to put together a great experience for our fans and a great experience for our community. You guys, I mean, obviously there's major league games and there's American Association games to get played, but you guys have 10 months now to hopefully put together another team that would go down as the greatest independent baseball team of all time, like we were going to put together this year.
Yeah, we had a great club coming in, but it's so funny. We talked to all of our guys, and pretty much most of the guys are going to want to come back, but there's going to be slots available, of course, but the talent pool is going to be unbelievable because with all these organizations getting rid of 30, 40, 50 players,
right?
24
to 42 minor league teams dropping, so the talent pool is just going to be that much better. So
40, with your 40 teams upwards of 40 teams, I like you said, up to 60, but I'm going to say between 25 and 40 teams are going to be done.
That's 20,000 players, roughly, if I can do math. I think that's 2,000. 2,000, I can't do math.
Right.
It's fine.
I mean, we're the way you look at it, you just know that these guys are going to need a place to play, and that's going to do nothing but up our talent pool on the way we look at it in our books, but most importantly, what the play could be on the field could just be, even better than it has been. And it was eye-opening last year, and I think it could be even better this year.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think there's going to be, if not expansion throughout maybe the Atlantic League, American Association, Frontier, but there's going to be more leagues that pop up. And we saw in the last 10, 12, 15 years or whatever, some leagues have popped up and they've been very unsuccessful. But I don't think that's going to be the case moving forward. I think with all these stadiums and being vacant, there are going to be some leagues that pop up, and you're going to get unbelievable talent to choose from. So I think this really makes independent ball that much stronger. And also, we don't know what's going to happen next year. So if scouts can't go out and look at players, they're going to continue to rely on the independent guys.
100%. It's going to make it a lot more fun. Can't wait for it to happen. Hopefully it happens with fans allowed in the ballpark, obviously, and with the safety of everybody in mind. Well, we appreciate you guys being a part of the show as always. Love talking with you guys. Love chatting baseball. We appreciate you listening to the show. Don't forget you can be a part every single week by submitting your questions on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Just search Caught Listening by Public House Media, or you can email the show caughtlisteningphm@gmail.com. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, review wherever you get your podcasts: Apple, Google, Spreaker.com, Stitcher.com, iHeartRadio, and of course publichousemedia.org. I'm Christian Heimall. You can find me on Twitter as well at Chris Heimall. It's ChrishEimall. And until next week, you have been caught listening.